Hello, welcome or welcome back here on my channel. I'm Danilo and today I'm talking about Oracle cards, and it's going to be, as of now, the last of this series here on my channel. So, from what I understand, from what I've learned, Oracle cards get very popular in the 70s, 1970s, and they start as the softer, more positive, less religious, less dangerous or judgy looking decks compared to the Sibylla style ones and especially the Tarot. That doesn't mean that nowadays oracles are all softer and fluffier and less serious. We can definitely find meaty and serious decks. What differs from an oracle card deck and a tarot or a Sibylla style or another specific oracle such as the Lenormand one is the system. So oracle as a word is anything that gives you the answer during divination practices. So it is both the tarot reader or card reader or mediums or whatever, and their instruments. So the cards, the spirits, the pendulum, the crystal ball, whatever. So when we use the word oracle cards, we actually mean every deck of cards which are useful for divination, useful for spiritual growth, maybe healing practices, meditation, even yoga, and all of that, which is its own thing. So instead of being a system with rules such as tarot, which is then represented artistically in many different ways, which then can lead to different interpretations. You can have more or less specific symbols added to the cards, but the 78 basic ones have to be there to be a tarot, as I said before. With oracles, that doesn't happen. Each deck is its own thing. Even in something like an animal oracle decks, which is like there are several oracle decks, animal-based oracle decks. Each one of them is its own thing. You can have the one where the animal represents and comes with an advice. You have the one which just the animal represents an energy, and so it's a personality based oracle, or you have the one that gives you actual answers. So it's different from one to the other. Now here I have a few of my own oracles, and I wanted to use them to kind of let you know the versions different versions of oracle decks you can find nowadays on the market. So starting from again an animal based one, the animal spirit from the wild unknown. It's the character personality study of people. So each animal is it represents an energy, which is why you or others behave in a certain way, which is what you feel, which is what you need to be happy, and it contains a message for a meditation on those themes to get to really connect and balance that energy. Then you have something like this tree, which is a more giving you answers, giving you advice sort of thing. So more tarot style when it comes to in which occasions you can use them. But again, very different thing. In the Woven Wisdom Oracle, we have fae, gods, goddesses, spirits, and archetypes of behavior. Each one is again connected to a story, so it teaches us something with that. It gives us straight answers. It has specific connotations. In the Mausolea Oracle of Souls, we have the different sorts of realms of the underworld and the characters that live in them, sorry, so we can understand what's holding us back, what we should learn to let go, what is the theme of what happens in our life, what is the circle we are locked inside. And then we have something like the Dreamscape Oracle deck, which again gives answers and understanding and advice, but every card is a symbol, a thing that needs to be analyzed. It's profound, it can be used very quickly to give answers, or it can be studied and connected to it very deeply. Then you have something like this, the Halloween Oracle from Stacy DeMarco, which is of course based on Halloween themes, so fall, trick or treat, skeletons, witches, vampires, and the like. But every card comes also with a phrase, which I found can be really useful when it's an advice. So if your question is the sort of how can I do something, this is good. Other kind of questions can be answered easily with this deck, but again, I would say this is more the kind of oracle which you can use to add to your reading with other cards, or you can use at the end to give an advice, to give an affirmation sort of message to the person. Then you have something like this, the Amore Psyche Oracle. So we have a theme based on what kind of topics are we going to look at with this deck. Of course, this is love, this is relationships. So you can have people, you can have Cupid, you can have many different things, but the thing is every card relate to relationships, romantic relationships, sexual relationships, relationships with yourself, and it's not useless, but it's really wasted on other kind of themes, other kinds of questions. Then you have something like this, the magical spell cards. Each card is a kind of spell with a little bit of instructions and a formula, so you can like draw every week or every time you need a card which is going to tell you what kind of spells you need in that moment, if you are a magic worker, not just a card reader. Then you have something like these two, which are a Zodiac Oracle. So we have astrology connected to cards, we have the Zodiac Western or Zodiac symbols, we have the planets and of course their energies and their meanings, and you read these cards in a specific ways to get a sort of correspondences, sorry, this word, sort of connecting the three, so the stars, the sign, the planet, and you get a message, an answer, a situation that way. Or you have something like this, which is a runic oracle combined with the animal oracle. So basically each card has a rune with a name and an animal that represents the energy of that rune. What's the difference between the runic oracle or the hogamic oracle or the I Ching oracle and the actual instrument in the three-dimensional wooden or stone or bone pieces? It's how you read. So like runes, you cast them. So how they fall, how they position themselves matter. Here you only take on. Oh my god, what's happening today? You basically take just the meaning of the rune, in this case the animal as well, but let's just pretend it's just a rune, and you get it, and that's it. You can have maybe a reading system or a spread to give you some sort of context or add to the meanings, because it goes depending on where you place the cards, of course it matters. Or you can just do a 1 or 3 draws and have the meanings of the runes just as they are. Of course it's a different way of readings. The runes are the runes, you don't change that aspect. You change the fact that they can fall in a certain pattern, or one under the other, or some face down, some face up. So that's different, but they remain runes. Honestly, I think these kind of oracles are more useful if you're trying to study something like the rune and you are already sure of your card reading skills, or if maybe you like the symbols and meanings but you don't really like the casting system, so you don't really like to drop your thing and then read them, and you prefer to flip your cards in a certain way. I think that's useful. I wouldn't say these kind of oracles, or even this, to be honest, are very good for beginners in general. For beginners, I would say pick something like one of these two, which can give you an affirmative, positive phrase, but also something you can reflect upon to fix some behaviors, maybe not very useful or even destructive for yourself, without giving you answer. Give answers with another deck. Use the tarot, use a Sibylla style cards, the Lenormand Oracle, whatever you want, but use an oracle to give an advice after the reading, or give yourself a theme and then use the other cards basically influenced by the theme represented by the oracle cards. But I would say that's the more useful, I think, way to use oracle cards, at least at first. If then you don't really care about the tarot and the like, you just like oracles, go for it. But that's how I feel about them. So again, where to start when you buy? It depends on what you want. If you want answers, I would say don't go for an oracle. Study a system, and then once you feel sure of yourself in that, buy an oracle to add to the readings, or just go for something that gives you a theme or a positive phrase, so you can do both, or something that you can meditate upon. Or like in this case, take something specific, so you know this oracle is good for relationships, if the relationships are very common as questions for us. So this something like this is good. I would say pick one card or maybe two cards for the two people, plus one for their connection in that moment, and then give them an answer with a tarot or something like that. So that's my advice when it comes to where to start with oracles. I honestly think they are very useful, but they are very useful in specific ways. Therefore, if you are starting, if you don't get to, if you don't want to go to the 78 cards of the tarot, pick a 22 majors only deck, or go for a Lenormand style, which is just 36. See if you like it, see if you like to be a card reader, and then start add things. If you just want one single oracle, I would say, instead of picking one that gives only answers or gives only affirmations, go for something like this that can do both. This is really good to give you advice and answers on different questions. Of course, it's on you and your querents when it comes to making the questions understand what's the best deck at your disposal to find an answer or a useful advice. So that's the end of my ramble. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, leave me a thumbs up, and I'll see you a thumbs up, sorry, and I'll see you next week. Bye.